questo e impostore rockstar, the fake rockstar chat show. NCA Tangentiale, formerly known as Tangential Thoughts Chat Show. We'll be working on a podcast in less than 24 hours. Yes, that's good. Sono to a capo, io sono Chief Gihareh Julius Caesar Augustus Kira Napoleon. Io sono. Alright, so I seen something and first reaction. Now, somebody always saying something. Somebody was the smartest mother on the earth. The Q&A. Favorito. Preferici. Let's get the poll going. So, now it said, this is what somebody said. The internet was a mistake. A lot of y'all should be limited to books. There's a couple things I want to say about that. So, everything has peaked. Nothing is getting better. The best of everything already exists. Now, that's one of the things, right? It's like, well, why is the technology better, but the movies, the anime, the TV shows, the sports, like we have the technology to capture the true essence or of what things should be and look like and this and the third. But the movies and the actors, the entertainment is not better, right? Why? So that was the thing, right? It was like, why are all the classics old movies, old music? After a certain time, it's like none of these, we just recycling all these remake movies, sampling this song, that song, like all the classics, all the good stuff came beforehand. Somebody always saying something. Somebody said that people growing up at a certain time, their creativity, their creative outlets, where they draw inspiration from, they had books. They didn't have the phone. They didn't have the iPad. They didn't have the technology. They didn't have computers. They didn't have all this other stuff, right? So they had less. And they had to figure out, create how to bring forth their vision with less. This is why I think part of being a starving artist is important. It forces you to create. I have this dream, I have this vision, this idea, and I want to bring it to life. How do I do that if I don't have this or I don't have that? And then you switch the mentality, okay? It's you have everything you need to bring it forth and to make it exist. Just make it exist. You can make it great later. You have everything at your disposal. Like if you have the idea, you have everything you need to bring it forth, to create it. So do it. And then you switch to, how do I do it with what I have? How do I create this vision, this dream, this goal, this reality with what I have, right? And so for them, seemingly with less resources, were able to create the classics, right? But their outlet, like they had to wrestle with their boredom. They had to sit in their boredom. They didn't have this escape from boredom. They weren't able to just doom scroll on social media. They weren't able to just not talk to be in a classroom full of people. They didn't have to talk to like now they can just, students nowadays can just sit in the classroom and nobody can sit there and talk to each other. Everybody can just be on their phone, being in an entire different mental space than being present right there in the classroom. That wasn't a thing back in the day. There was no phone. You had to interact and engage with the environment around you and just the people. Now that's another thing. You were limited to the people, your environment around you. This is another thing that they talk about. You didn't know about, you knew Susan down the street, or you knew Sally from a couple blocks, but you didn't know about Roxanne in the next city. Unless you had a car and you started traveling, but you didn't know about certain things. Now that's a whole nother segment of, people feeling like they have more options And it's just going out here. I'm gonna do this and do that, and there's plenty of fish in the sea, shark in the water. That's a whole nother thing. Like I don't like this for whatever reason. I'm not gonna have to stick this out, work this out. I'm gonna go find. Now I know about Roxy. That's a couple states away. We can fly her out, or we can go meet in Mykonos and Greece and Rome. We can trap. People getting flued out. That's not the internet. The internet, right? This access. But there was a thing about that, right? People like, oh, all these people got these podcasts and they saying this and the third. And it was, there was a thing. Like, so you didn't know about the fool, right? If there was this outrageous fool, Follis, if there was this outrageous fool within this city or this town, only the people of that city or that town would know about this fool. But now that we have internet, it's my fault for having a phone. But now that we got internet and phones, more people, that fool has a phone, and that fool can just sit here and say foolish and do foolish things, and we have access to it. You can see it. And it's like, was that a thing that we were or were not supposed to be a part of or be privy to? You didn't know about this foolish person saying foolish things or doing foolish things. Like, you didn't know about this fool in another country. But now, because of the internet, we do. And so my first reaction was, you know what, like, maybe that is a thing, right? Some of y'all, you don't cast pearls amongst swine. Now, my initial take to that was the fact that people's vocabulary has been expanded by a little, by a lot. But is that a good thing? Or we have a lot of social media psychology. We have social media psychology. So you have a lot of people, again, you don't cast pearls among swine. I just feel like there's a lot of words that people just probably wouldn't say, would not say, or do, or even know about, or use in their normal diction, lexicon, jargon. They wouldn't use. You got different types of vocabulary. Vocabulary that you read, vocabulary that you speak, vocabulary that you write. You got different types of vocabulary. There's words that people just would not use or say in their normal, none of that. But because they have access to a phone and they heard somebody say this and the third, it's the misinterpretation. And for some reason, it's a lot of the psychology stuff gets thrown out there. So last year, everybody was narcissists, and this year, everybody's avoidant. These psychology terms are popping up, but stonewalling or gaslighting, and people are just using these words. They're just clickbait trigger words, and nobody really understands the meaning of it. She has 47 theories on why she's single, and none of them involve her. They have all these reasonings and rationale behind, oh, this person's this, and this person gotta be doing that, and this person, they got all this, and the third, and they don't understand these psychology terms, right? They don't understand certain terms. But because they have access to a phone, and somebody said this, they're just gonna repeat it. Everything you say gets repeated. They're just gonna repeat this and say that and not really have a full understanding of it. You don't cast pearls amongst swine. And so the thing is that a good thing that person has access to certain knowledge? If you don't know what to do with it, you don't understand it. So one of my things growing up was, you shouldn't say a word if you don't know how to spell that word. You shouldn't say a word if you don't know how to spell that word. And so, like, what you have a lot of people doing is using and saying things, and they don't know the proper definition, the proper context. They're using words, definitions, all these stuff in improper context and not the correct way. But because they heard this person say it, they just spewed it, spout it, believe it, take it, and go on and go that way. Like, for instance, a narcissist is a Greco-Roman god. A narcissist is a Greco-Roman god. Nike is a Greco-Roman god. You see what I'm saying? Nike is a Greco-Roman god. Hermes, It's things like this. Nike is a Greco-Roman god, but you'll say it's a clothing brand. Hermes is a now that figure translates into a whole bunch of different, you know, religions, ideologies, philosophies. But Hermes nowadays is a high fashion clothing brand. So Nike is a Greco-Roman god. Hermes, that's a religious ideology figure, right? And then Narcissus is a Greco-Roman god. But you think a narcissist is this, but narcissist was that. So Nike, Hermes, um, Horus, but you see the word chorus, Ra, Isis, all this other stuff, right? And so, just as an aside, it's the fact that um, I don't, I don't care. I don't know your God. I don't care about your God. That's for you and you. You don't know what your God looks like. But the Egyptians, the Romans, and the Greeks, they knew what their gods looked like. You don't know what your God looks like. I don't believe, I don't serve your God. That's just, they at least knew what their gods looked like. You don't know what yours looks like. It sounds like delusion. Delusion is an actual, they have like this, I think it's the DCI M4V, I don't know what that thing is, but it has a list of medical, mental illnesses and things like that. And certain things are really an actual, mental illness and you think you just be joking until you actually come in contact with somebody who actually has certain religious psychosis is a thing. Um, so, like I just said, narcissist is a Greco-Roman god, but you think a narcissist is whatever you think it is. You can't even properly display it, but you have tendencies, actions, behaviors that would claim you as, if you look at the definition for a narcissist, you have certain tendencies of a narc, but you don't want to. She has 47 theories on why she's single, but none of them involve her. Common denominator, your intuition be telling you this, that, and the third, but you keep having certain relationships. Your intuition be on point, but you keep having your intuition or your ego. I think you're confusing the two. Okay. Hermes, like I said, you think it's a clothing brand, but it's a Narcissus, Hermes, Nike. Those are Greco-Roman gods. At least the Greek and the Romans and the Egyptians knew what their gods looked like, and you don't know what your God looks like. I don't believe, I don't serve, because you don't know your. Now tell me that your God said something to you. It sounds like schizophrenia. Tell me that you saw your God. That sounds like delusion, because you don't know. But people shouldn't have access to the internet. You have access to information that you don't understand. You're repeating and spewing information that you don't understand. If it was in a book, you probably wouldn't be able to read it. They say if you want to hide something, put it in a book. If it was in a book, you probably wouldn't read it. If it was in a book, you probably wouldn't understand it. There would be one or two words. You'd be like, I don't know the definition of this word. And what would you do? You wouldn't then go look it up because you don't care enough. You have access to information that you don't understand. You repeat and spew things that you don't understand. Some of y'all should be limited to books. That way, you would reach this point and this level of understanding of saying, you know what? I'm not smart enough. Because the fact of the matter is, some people aren't smart enough. And it's just like, there's this, you get to grow up, and at a certain point in a period of time, you realize, yeah, you can't be everything that you want to be. Everybody's not created equally. Some people are smarter. Some people look better. And it's not about comparison, it's that and the third. It's just the fact of the matter is some people have certain things. Now, some people just have more personality. Some people have more intelligence. Some people have more, whatever they have more of. It's just a fact of the matter. You cannot be everything. You don't get paid to be pretty. Mid. Some people do get paid to be pretty. Don't be mad at that person though. You need to, they like figure out what you got that you have more of. Your best superpower is you. Everything ain't true. So some people, if they did not have access to internet and a phone, they would not have access to certain information. I'm not gonna say that it would be hidden. I'm not gonna say that they wouldn't be able to do this or that and the third. But it's a lot of things they would not say and do. And It's the misuse of the information. It's the misuse of the information. What are we doing? You see what I'm saying? What was the point of telling this person this information? They're not gonna use it. They're not gonna do nothing with this information. It's like an idea. They say ideas aren't yours. Ideas aren't yours. So whose ideas are they? Who do they belong to? The idea found you and he thought that you was a vessel to bring it forth. You know? So it's those types of things. It's those types of things that I think somebody once said that it's almost like this God perspective of of being able to see and know what everybody in the world is doing. And at a certain period of time, people were not privy to that. At a certain period of time, everyone you didn't have access to everyone in the world to know what everyone in the world looks like, to know what everyone in the world thinks like. You didn't have access to that. So somebody called this like the God perspective. We're living in a time where everything is recorded. You walk into a building, you walk into a space, there's cameras everywhere. Everybody's vlogging, everybody's streaming. It's a lot of different things going on, right? But you now have access to the dummy that lives in this country, the hoe that lives over there, like that hoe over there, thought. That's what the word thought. That hoe over there, thought. You now know about that hoe over there, that thought, or that thought in your head. You now have access to these hoes. And now that you got access to all these hoes, back then they didn't know it. They didn't have all these hoes. But they're like, oh, the hoes is everywhere. We're supposed to do with all this information and types of things. They didn't know what their gods look like either. It was speculation. I'm refuting that, especially based on their domains. I'm refuting that. The case in point, you don't got to keep making, you don't got to give a whole bunch of evidence. We have a statue of Dwayne Wade. You know what Dwayne Wade looks like. His statue don't look like him. This is like, use your other side of your brain, the logic. The left side, the right side is delusion. It's real creative. The other side, one of the most Googled questions, how to draw. Most people do not know how to draw. So if they don't know how to draw, you can move it forward to like, there's niche, whatever. There's niche cultures and it's like, so drawing is one thing. If you don't know how to draw, you probably don't know how to sculpt. You don't know a sculptor. So sculpting is not something that is high. Art, sculpting, creativity, that's not high on the priority list, right? So, mind you, they sculpted and did all this stuff with rocks and clay, mediums that are harder to work with. Not even the easy stuff that we can sit here and mold. You have never had somebody sit in front of you and try to paint a picture of them, of somebody that you can see. If somebody sat right in front of you for 10 hours straight and you tried to paint a picture of them, you couldn't do it. So to have a sculpture to be as detailed as whatever, you couldn't do it. And if you can't, and you can ask 1,000 people and 1,000 people couldn't do it. So the fact that we have people who have dedicated their lives to this and make a statue of the people that we can actually see nowadays and it don't look like them. At least they knew what their gods look like. If you ever want to go down the path, because I've already done this, because I'm an artist, so I had to sit here and say, well, why, if they could sculpt and look at, rocks and put their art on rocks and things, which is very hard to do, you clearly know this, because right now you couldn't do this. Right now, you cannot walk up to a rock and paint it to make it look like anything great, especially something that was going to last thousands of years. You can't do that. So, the most Googled how-to questions, how to draw. Promise you. How to draw. If it's not one, it's number 2. They focus on the eternality of things, and The other question to then look at is, how did we go from the art that the Egyptians had to the art that the Greco-Romans had? And the Greco-Romans focus on the present, the presence. The Egyptians focus on the eternality of things. The Greeks and the Romans focus on how things look in the present. At least they knew what their gods looked like. 10% of people have finished a book with more than 100 pages. It's crazy. It is like, how does this happen between, it's somewhere in between middle and high school, right? It's like you have to ask, after high school, how many books have you read? When's the last time you read a book? Nobody pissed me off. I'm just having like a friendly conversation because of something I saw on the internet, right? And it's like, if you didn't have access to the internet, the things that you would not say or do or know. Shelf full of at least 100 books I've read. It's the same thing as people who say aliens disappeared just because they can't fathom a way to build one. But they don't doubt how the cathedral was built and just can't accept brown people have built something amazing. That's mainly because artisans are extremely unpopular nowadays. The question is why? Why is it a rich activity? Why is it a rich activity and not like a main activity? And when did it become, because that was one of the things, right, that the royalty had to hire an artist. And now there's things of why does the picture of Jesus, why does he look like this? Is because who was he hired by? And who did that person have ever to see? Your God looks like you. And that's like the easiest thing. Who painted this picture? Oh, he was hired by this person at this time. It's a very famous artist. He was hired. So who did he have as a reference? The people he looked at. That's why his God looks like him. But it got you in a chokehold. People used to pay people just to make things artistically. It was a rich people thing. We don't do that anymore. It's the switch of it, all of this and that. It's the switch of between here and the industrialization. So this started off 100%. So pre-industrialization, you can make a living making art, and it's when and how does this become such a thing? And this is why it was like the internet was a mistake. Was it a good mistake? Was it a bad? Like it's just this whole thing with AI right now. Apparently it's a war on AI, but everybody uses it. Everybody talk business about it, but everybody uses it. ChatGPT, they'd rather confess to ChatGPT because it's a robot and the robot can't judge them. They confessing to ChatGPT, asking ChatGPT everything. There's this one movie that has a supercomputer that knows everything and anything at all the time. Sounds like everybody just ChatGPT. How to start investing? Robinhood, ChatGPT, and YouTube. You'll figure it out. One thing. The internet is the one thing that started to bring back art. Depends. Like when the one app first started, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna see this and the third. And because what you see now is like certain people's like, yeah, if they could just focus on the art, they would do this. But now they have to focus on the marketing side, and that's why I have a discourse: art, fashion, photography. But there was this in high school. They did have it was, which one's more important, art or technology? AI is running it. Is it? It's like that was the one thing, right? That was the one thing. AI is ruining it. However, what is it also doing? It's allowing a person who's not as creative physically, but has ideas mentally. And that's why they say that prompt engineering is a skill to come. Telling what and how do I have to say and phrase this prompt to the AI so that it makes what I want it to make. You don't got to know how to draw no more. You don't have to know how to animate anymore. If you give the AI the right prompt, it'll generate this whole scene with the characters and how you want them to look and what they're gonna say. You don't need the AI. You don't need to know how to do art anymore. You don't need to know how to do anything physically. Right? You don't need to know how to do anything physically. So it's like the good parts of it, the parts where it's like, well, shoot, for me, like, because that's one thing I'm looking at the like Pokemon with, right? Pokemon doesn't have voice actors. In 2025, Pokemon doesn't have voice actors, but they decided to add anti-homeless infrastructure and furniture to their game. But yet they can add AI voices for all the characters, even if they didn't want to They, even if they didn't want to actually like pay people to be actors and voice actors, they did for the Pikachu and the Eevee, but for the actual trainers that you got to battle and stuff, they could have used the AI voices for that. You can use the AI voice for this and the third. I was sitting here trying to figure out. I just don't want to sign up. I don't feel like signing up for nothing. But to make an account, I can have. You can like for all my clothes and all my merch. I want to see people doing unboxing videos. I want to see people wearing, and I want to see, you know what I'm saying, wearing the merch. I can make. You can make an AI model. An AI model will model your clothes. I just didn't feel like signing in. If I would have signed in, I could have had an AI model. I was gonna. She was gonna look Brazilian. She was gonna be like 5'5", thick in the thighs, Brazilian. The bitch would have been doing squats. I would have edited the fuck out of that video. Um, but they do. That's the thing. But they do. The internet. Now we got the metaverse coming. It's just like there's no slowing of any of it down. It's a matter. It's not a matter of if. It's not a matter of how. Oh, it's a matter of when. It's only a matter of when. Like, so that's one of the things when they interview Elon, he'd be like, yeah, it's not a matter of that. It's just a matter of when. Like, you can sit here and try to slow this down and slow that down. It just the only thing, there is no war on. That's why I say, like, when last I heard somebody say it was like a war on AI, and I'm like, that's not a thing. It could be, but you have an overwhelming majority of people that are tapping in and using it for a variety of ways. Like I said, it can help you do whatever. People just don't want to, and corporations are pushing it. It, they don't necessarily even have to. It's just the fact that you don't have to respond to somebody. You can ask ChatGPT, how do I respond with this? You can ask, it can edit your pictures, it can edit your videos, it can do all that other stuff for you. The only thing it's not doing, it is like it can animate for you, it can draw for you. You can't draw, it's okay. It can give, if you want the voice to sound like, you can put the voice into it. You can do all of that. Um, nah, so that but what does that lead to? What does that lead to? The one thing that we learn from history is that we don't learn from history. History repeats itself. One thing we learn from history is that we don't learn from history. History repeats itself. So, what would be the point? All this then leads to is an uprise of finding other ways to do it. It just leads to an uprise of finding other ways to do it. And it becomes even more like that would be one thing to that would it ramps it up even further. Like they tried to Sora, I think was the Chat GPT upgrade, right? I think it was called Sora 2. And you saw what people did with it. And they used it, and you saw these videos with Michael Jackson, Tupac, Kobe, and it looked like them, it talked like them, and I think it was called Sora 2. So they let people use it for a little bit, and they was like, oh, snap. Made all these videos. Mind you, they only did it for like 48 hours. It was that fast. They made all these videos, and then they said, nah, you gotta pay for this. You gotta pay for this. They took it back, and it was like, nah, you gotta pay for this. So it's only like knowing what it can do, um, it's only making people gonna find a way to, prohibition, right? That's when you found out about the speakeasies. It was, all right, that turned it into a whole nother business. It turned into a whole nother business. Cause it don't like all the tech people, it's then them. They can be like, well, here, I have a platform in this space, and they're gonna allow people to use it for it. Like it leads to a whole nother business. If they try to minimize it, because that's the thing already. Like telling somebody they can't do something makes them then want to go do it more. Nah, this is why one of the reasons it's tricky to see the metaverse come into. This is why it's at least cool. The coolest thing about living right now is that you lived before the metaverse. That's the coolest thing about right now. You lived before the metaverse. Part of the reason they never became so popular is because of all the information on there. It's gonna get to a point where you can trust even a single thing on the internet. Yeah, that's AI. That's AI, right? It's getting hard to tell the difference between the two. It's getting hard to tell the difference between the two. So there's that. And so now you gotta say like, man, I lived before the metaverse. And people will start jacking in and just putting little things in and not even being real life physical. So it's gonna be an interesting time, especially for people who are not big on gaming and gamers, and then they get hooked on to it and not being able to go back and forth between reality and, again, between what's reality and what's this metaverse and what's this game, and they just get locked in. And then when you're finally able to save yourself digitally, when you're finally able to save yourself digitally, how many people in real life are you starting to going to really have? And this when the metaverse becomes so real, you already got them 4D roller coasters and rides and things like that. The metaverse becomes so real that you can't even tell. You start to get people who don't know the difference between reality and the AI and the technology. Regulate the corporate use. I don't think I should, because the corporations don't have, it's like they're not, right? They don't, they're not. It's just, you say that, but there's a show on Netflix called, uh, Altered Carbon. There's a show on Netflix called Altered Carbon, and it's literally, some people are just like, you know what? I'm going to be a human. I'm going to be natural. I'm just going to pass away. And then some people are like, nah, I'm just going to go stay and just live forever. Like, you didn't have that choice. You didn't have that choice. And you say that you would do this, that, and the third until you have the choice. You say you want to do this or that until you have the choice. And then there is that's when you